This past World Cup, Belgium went down in flames. I'm not talking about the thing on their sleeves either. And this was no blaze of glory. They crashed out of the World Cup in the group stage, despite all of the talent at their disposal. And now it looks like the Belgian golden generation is coming to an end. Vincent Kompany's already a manager, Eden Hazard just retired, and Thibaut Courtois is away from the team due to a mixture of injury and personal reasons. The only star players remaining on the team are Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku, and that's if you call him a star. And it looks like the Belgian golden generation is going to go the way of the England golden generation, without a trophy. I think the two teams have some similarities. Both had a terrible manager in their prime years, but it's disrespectful to compare Sven-Göran Eriksson to Roberto Martinez. At least Sven was successful before he got the England job. Also, both had huge holes on the left-hand side. England didn't have any left-footed wingers and refused to play Ashley Cole in the back five, but that's a story for another day. And Belgium just didn't have left-backs altogether, which helped encourage that stupid 3-4-3 formation with extra wingers, and God, Roberto Martinez was terrible. It's to the point that I think they would have been better off if Jordan Lukaku would have stayed healthy as opposed to his brother, who's their all-time top goal scorer. Just put Christian Benteke, Divock Origi, Michy Batshuayi, whoever's in form up top. However, a major difference between England and Belgium is that England's a traditional power in world football, while Belgium isn't. And while Belgium might have a more successful past than you realize, they failed to qualify for 5 major tournaments before 2014. And now that their stars are retiring, some questions are starting to come up. Because with England, after the golden generation moved on, they had a bit of a lull, but they bounced back quickly. Everybody knew they would, and they're probably better now than they were in the 2000s. With Belgium, though, with the likes of Eden Hazard, Vincent Kompany, Thibaut Courtois moving on, there's a feeling that they might regress to the team that they were before 2014, before the golden generation. And now, qualifying for tournaments altogether might be a tough task. But the thing is, Belgium hasn't regressed, at least not yet. In fact, for Euro 2024 qualifying, they were the first team other than the host to make the tournament. I think that's because their next generation is extremely talented and will only continue to build off of what the golden generation did. Belgium isn't about to fall off. There's a ton of talent in this new Belgium team. And to drive that home, I'm going to be running through some of the players in this squad so you can see how many players with world-class potential this team has. First, there's a player I've talked about a bit in the past, Jeremy Doku. And this is a guy who moved to Man City, the treble winners, and has made an instant impact. He's one of the top dribblers in the world already, and he's already been making goal contributions. Now, a good amount of that comes from a game against Bournemouth where he had 5, but he had 5 goal contributions in one game against a Premier League opposition. That is something to take note of. Also to take note of is he's taking playing time away from Jack Grealish, who I don't know how much money Man City spent on him. That shows the amount of faith that they have in him. And just statistically, he's been an amazing dribbler, and when you watch him, you can really see the talent, and Pep Guardiola will only continue to help him get better. And on the opposite wing, there's another top talent. Johan Bakayako has been starring for PSV as they currently lead the Eredivisie. He's another extremely talented dribbler, always making things happen. His assist numbers and ball progression has been on point, and he's a guy who passes the eye test. When you watch him play, you immediately see an extremely talented player. And in addition, he's a lefty, so he can play opposite of Doku with no problems. And with that, I feel like Belgium's wings are set for the future. And this is without mentioning Julian Duranville, who's another extremely talented prospect at Borussia Dortmund, but he's been dealing with a lot of injuries as of late. Up front, Belgium have another extremely athletic striker, Lois Openda. He's been the 3rd highest goal scorer in the Bundesliga since arriving at RB Leipzig this summer. And as opposed to Lukaku, who's very strong, Openda is just rapid, one of the fastest players in the world, has been lethal on the counterattack, great player for RB Leipzig. In addition, he's a bit more well-rounded than Lukaku, and he has plenty of time to still develop. I think striker isn't going to be an issue for Belgium in the future. Then there's Arthur Vermeeren, a midfielder who's the top talent in the Belgian league, maybe tied with Antonio Nusa, and one of the reasons I felt compelled to make this video, because he is such a top talent. He broke into the Antwerp team last year and was a huge part of them winning a double. He's only 18, and he's already a complete midfielder. The technical ability is there, great in tight spaces, can play out of tight spots very well, but I think his energy and defensive work is even more impressive for his age. He's impacting games in the Champions League with his defensive work. He's somebody who's impacting the game both on and off the ball, and I think he's going to be a world-class talent in the pretty near future. Those are the players I feel like are the top talents for Belgium, but there are plenty of players to monitor. Romeo Lavia is one. He was a bright spot for a terrible Southampton team last season, and after his move to Chelsea, I'm hoping he can follow that Cole Palmer path of Man City youngster to Chelsea star. I'm not exactly sure how he fits in the midfield right now. Chelsea just spend on everything, but he's certainly a talent to monitor. And even if he doesn't pan out, there are a good amount of players to watch at defensive midfield for Belgium, like Onana at Everton for one. The defense doesn't have as much promising talent. I mean, center back's not going to be as strong as it was when you had the likes of Company, Vertonghen, Artevelde, and Vermeeren to choose from, but it's certainly not a weak spot. You've got players like Spilers at Club Brugge, who looks very promising. De Bast is a very young player who's already been a regular for Belgium. Tete looks pretty good. I mean, center back's not the weakest spot. That would be fullback, which still isn't good. They still don't have any left backs to choose from. Oliver Deman's not a left back. I got excited when I saw the lineup. Watched that game. He was not playing left back. But hey, I mean, it wasn't a position of strength when the golden generation was around. I'm saying that Belgium's not going to fall off. Not that they're going to be favorites for the next World Cup or something. Van de Voort is a promising goalkeeper coming through. He'll be moving to RB Leipzig soon. Well, it's tough to gauge goalkeepers at a young age. I think he's a talent. But I think that doesn't really matter. Thibaut Courtois will be returning from injury relatively quickly. And he's a world-class goalkeeper. And he's only 31. He'll continue to be world-class through at least the next World Cup. I feel like we shouldn't forget about the star players that Belgium already has. For example, Kevin De Bruyne. Even as he starts to decline physically, he's a great technical midfielder, and I'd argue the best passer in all of Europe. And even as he declines physically, you can surround him by athletic, defensively stout midfielders like Vermeeren and Lavia. And with that, there's no reason why the best passer in the world couldn't continue to perform for Belgium in the near future. Romelu Lukaku, has continued to produce at an international level. I think you can tell I'm not the biggest fan of him, but his talent is undeniable and he can be a game-breaking player. In addition, there are good, older Belgian players who will help make the transition to the next generation much simpler. Guys like Tielemans, Trossard, Luka Bakayako, Castagna, Carrasco. All of them will make sure that there isn't a fall-off in the next Euro, the next World Cup. It'll make the transition from the golden generation to the next generation much simpler. I talked about England's golden generation earlier, and while we all know how much these two golden generations underperformed, I think it's important to note that England were able to recover. In fact, their team in 2018, with Jesse Lingard, Harry Maguire, and Ashley Old all starting, were able to get further than the team in the mid-2000s whose worst outfield player was the greatest Premier League right back of all time ever did. I think Belgium will be able to have a similar recovery, with the world-class players they have coming through, with the all-time great players who might be able to last longer than we expect. I'm expecting this Belgian team in the near future to be as good and maybe even get as far as the golden generation ever did. And yeah, that's all I got to talk about. I've talked about other national teams in the past. I think the one on Norway is very good. Talked about some teams with Belgium players on it. And yeah, I'm home for Thanksgiving, so I got different jerseys set up. Hope that looks good. And yeah, that's all I talked about. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed it. See you.